Hello. Welcome all. In this video, I am going to show you two deadly traps against the famous opening Sicilian defense. Studying opening traps is not the correct way to bring improvement in your games, but you can definitely apply in rapid and blitz tournaments. So let's begin. Our first trap is in the Alapin line of Sicilian defense. E4 C5 is Sicilian defense, as you know, and then we play C3. This is the Alapin variation. Now, black has here most common replies like D5 or E6 or knight F6, or dragon lovers would like to play G6 also here. But if they play knight C6, this is very rare line. Then we continue with d4, and they must first play d5, and then e takes d5 and queen takes d5 and knight f3. That would transpose to the line in the trap here. So let's see this. If they play d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5, knight f3. The same position would appear as shown in the game if they first take on the d4. C takes d4, c takes d4, then they play d5, and then we take on d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5, and knight f3. So this is the same position as shown earlier. Now, white has here IQP, the isolated queen pawn. So black wants to put more pressure on this. So he can play either e5 or bishop g4. If he plays e5, then we'll play nc3 and attack the queen. And if he pins the knight, then we can, by bishop b4, then we can play bishop d2. So, for example, if e5, then knight c3 attacking the queen. So, they would like to pin our knight, and then we immediately unpin the knight. They might play e4, we can play knight e5, and the game would continue. So, here, the other way of putting the pressure on our IQP, instead of e5, many players will play bishop g4 as it pins the knight. So you have to immediately unpin the knight by playing bishop e2. Then they takes on f3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, attacks their queen. So they thought that they can win this pawn as they have two attacks here. So queen takes d4, but it would be blunder. What will you do? Will you exchange the queens, and after knight takes, you will take this extra pawn here on b7? For example, queen takes d4, knight takes d4, and bishop takes b7 attacking the rook? Or will you go for some better option here? Yes, bishop takes c6 check, and you pick up the queen. So that was the trap all about. So let's come to our second trap, which is in the line of Smith-Morra gambit. So e4 c5, and we play d4. This is called as Smith-Morra gambit. C takes d4 and c3 and d takes c3. This is called as Smith-Morra gambit accepted. Knight takes c3. So here white has sacrificed a pawn in the opening to get the center control and one piece development, like that. So that is called as gambit, means sacrificing a pawn in a opening to get some advantage. So d6 they was played, but here they can play
actually knight c6 and e6 also. If they play knight c6, then we play knight f3. So here black plays d6, then we play bishop c4. In case of both knight c6 and e6 lines, we have to play knight f3 first. But if black plays d6, then we play bishop c4, as it immediately targets the weakest pawn on the board, f7. So black plays knight f6, which is not that great. He should have played either e6 or knight c6 as told earlier. What would you play? e5. Now knight should go to d7, nf d7, or at the most knight to g4. But if he takes the pawn, then he falls in our trap. This is a big blunder. So what will you play? Will you exchange the queens and then take the extra pawn on f7, or will you play something else better? Yes, bishop takes f7 check, because taking on f7 after queen exchange is not beneficial to white, because he has already sacrificed a pawn, and even after taking on f7 he would be pawned down. So here the best move is bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7 is the only move, and then you win the queen. But you have to be very careful after this, because black would play knight c6, and you can simply take your queen back to d1 square original, or even you can play queen d3. But avoid this pitfall, queen d5 check. You will lose your queen because black knight is there to capture it. So queen d1 we play, because if at all he plays knight b4, then we can win the knight by playing queen b3 check. The same thing can happen in case of queen d3 also. After queen d3, if they play knight b4 attacking the queen, then we can give queen c4 check and win that knight. Okay, so this was all about trap 2. Hope you all like the video. Do mention your thoughts in the comments below, and also like and share the video. Don't forget to subscribe the channel if you haven't done it so far. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.